Well, good morning, everyone, and happy 2026. I am George Smith. I have the pleasure of serving as the director of MSU AgBioResearch. And I have here with me today my good friend Leesa Massman. And Leesa and I are going to have some fun talking about the horse industry in Michigan and talking about the impact of research done by MSU AgBioResearch scientists and the strong link of that work to our longstanding grants program called the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture. So, Leesa, welcome. We look forward to the conversation.
Great. I'm delighted to be here, George.
Yeah, to kick this off, let's talk a little bit about your background and the equine industry in the state of Michigan. We know you've been very active in the industry in a lot of different ways, training, judging, running an equestrian facility, and you also were very instrumental in representing your industry on the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture in the early days when we were getting started and have had the pleasure of being a part of that effort. To tell us a little bit more about you and a little bit more about horses, the horse industry in the state of Michigan, and what you'd like our general audience to know.
Okay, great. Let's start with the most important thing, and that would be horses in the state of Michigan. So, Michigan is number 12 in the country for numbers of horses. In Michigan, it's a $1.6 billion revenue producer. We've got 189,000 horses. This is from the 2017 study. Another piece I thought was interesting is that 30% of households in general have a horse enthusiast. So I love the fact that the horse is oftentimes the gateway animal for ag and animal industries. And I see this all the time. I see a lot of my students and acquaintances and equestrian team members going to Michigan State or other schools thinking they want to be in horses, and lo and behold, they're in swine research or become inspectors at meat plants or because it becomes very fascinating to them. So we really like that it just introduces them to animals, which becomes more and more difficult, I think, in today's age. We have more and more separation from, our farms, our background. I grew up in the city, South Lansing, and I've been in the industry 50 years as a professional. Gosh, that's a long, long time. But I've watched a lot of things change. But one of the things I noticed that, when I was a kid in our neighborhood, it was kind of mixed of older and newer homes. I always loved the older homes because they always had a horse stable out and back. They had like a little horse barn, which was just awesome because I loved horses. There were no horses in them. But I'd go in. Sometimes they still had the straw, or you'd find a horseshoe in there. So that connection is really, really critical. And being one of those kids that did not grow up in agriculture. So I went to South Lansing schools. Nobody in the neighborhood had a horse. Nobody had an animal. My other than a few dogs or cats. My parents don't even like animals, so we were only allowed to have a cat. But I was always obsessed and kind of fed that obsession and need to be around animals. Actually, through Michigan State University as a kid, my favorite thing to do if I behave really well, we would go get to visit one of the MSU farms and go look at the cows or the pigs or the horses. Just best reward ever for me, just that interaction. So really appreciate MSU's dedication to public education and that interaction because I don't know without that where I would have gone. And I've had a pretty good life, and I love the horses. So yeah.
Very powerful, Lisa, and I appreciate you sharing those great facts and the testimony about the impact of the work we do here at Michigan State. You know, when we do these podcasts, I always walk away learning things from this. And that's also part of the fun. In my job, I cover the full spectrum of agriculture, on the plant side, everything from apples to zucchini, and on the animal side, every aspect of our industry. And so I'm very much a generalist and I don't know the details, but you did just such a fantastic job with a testimonial about the broad impact of horses in the state. 30% of all households.
Yeah. Yep.
That
That's according to Michigan Horse Council. Yeah, that's
that
pretty powerful. I probably should add a few things in here too. It's like, okay, the 4-H program,
yeah.
that was critical right along the MSU
Mhm.
program and the 4-H extension program. That is what helped me build my career. I don't come from a horse background. I
Mhm.
don't come from a
Mhm.
lot of money. I spent every moment I could in that 4-H program.
Mhm.
If you, well, this is before your time, George, but we
Mhm.
used to have the pavilion right in the center of campus there,
Mhm.
across from Anthony Hall.
Mhm.
And there used to be a lot of events there. One of them, Black and Bridle Horse Show. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
that was my favorite in April. That was huge. The stands were full. So any event that I could go to, man, I just wanted to learn more and get more. And so it was all revolved around MSU,
Mhm.
and all these programs were free, which was great, or very minimal cost because we
Mhm.
didn't have much money. I had a rotten pony, and then my next horse was an $80 St. John's auction special. And that's kind of how it was. And so without MSU, all those programs, nothing would have moved forward. So also when I went to school at Michigan State, we didn't have a horse program. So I I wanted to be a veterinarian, but as we all know, I'm not a scientist and I'm not very good at organic chemistry. Oh no. What am I going to do? So I ended up getting a degree in animal science. So I learned about cows and pigs and sheep and compared it to the horse industry. And I noticed, oh my gosh, there's a lot of differences here, but there's a lot of similarities. So I didn't make it in vet school. So I started teaching some lessons, and that went very well. And I had some fabulous mentors who I think just took pity on me, actually, but made me much better. And so I traveled for 18 years just doing lessons. And then I ended up buying, or I leased a facility for 2 years. And then I
Mhm.
buying the facility I have now, which is Massman Stables. It's a 70 stall facility with 2 indoor arenas in Mason. I also was the head coach at Michigan State University for the
Mhm.
hunt seat team and the stock team for, gosh, total about 30 years. 10 for the hunt seat and a lot longer for the stock seat. I taught a couple classes at Michigan State
Mhm.
on teaching and things like that, and a couple of the universities. So had a really good run with students. Taught about 6,000 riding students outside Michigan State, 200 national champions. And then the best thing is, a lot of those students went out into the horse industry and they are professionals today and have way surpassed
Mhm.
anything I have ever done. That's really exciting for me when we see that.
Yeah, fantastic, Lisa. And 1.6 billion contribution to the food and ag economy in the state of Michigan, which is valued at over 125 billion a year again. So very, very important part of the industry. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to discuss with you. So kind of shifting the focus a little bit more towards research. From your perspective, why is the research like what Brian Nielsen, MSU faculty member, Department of Animal Science, has done so important to your industry and so important right now? And talk a little bit about that impact.
Yeah. So, one of the things that is problematic in the horse industry is there's not much funding for scientific research, and much of the funding that is out there is very biased or has an agenda, someone that is looking to promote a product or prove that it works or something like that. So we don't have very much funding available. So the fact that through MAAA, we've got some funding to do some non-biased research. That's just fabulous. That's fabulous because that's very limited for us. And then to have the research conducted at Michigan State University rather than by a company or private entity, oh, just wonderful. Because one of the things that happens is our horse owners, I noticed this right away. What was the difference between the livestock, the other livestock species and the horse industry? Well, our horse people are really gullible. They buy a lot of supplements and do a lot of weird things. And shouldn't they know better? Well, they would like to, but our scientific based research is so limited that it's not really gullibility. It's that we don't have solid facts. We look at the dairy industry or the beef industry. Well, a good percentage of the population consumes those, so they're ready. Horse industry, we're really left kind of out in the cold a lot of times without solid, non-biased research. So, and then as we all are aware, we all want to be good stewards of our animals, and especially with horses. Horses have worked side by side with us for, gosh, since the beginning of time almost. And so we want to be good stewards of our horse, provide really good welfare for them, do what's right for them. But how do we know unless we've got research to back it up? We're just guessing, and we might be guessing right, we might be guessing wrong. So the research that is available through MSU is just priceless, and we hope to do more and more of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Leesa, you really, really talked about the land grant mission through the lens of your industry incredibly well. That is the role of ag bioresearch to provide objective, non-biased data to help our partners in agriculture make their own decisions about what works for them, what doesn't work for them, so forth. It's so important to what we do, so fundamental. And the whole Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture program was created with that very concept in mind to provide the funding for our faculty to address critical immediate priorities that our partners evolved in raising horses, the horse industry, and other industries feel is important. And Brian's work's really been a great testimony to that. And one thing I really appreciate about Brian's work is the impact and the relevance. Because we know when something happens at a racetrack and a horse gets hurt, and no one wants to see that. No
Nope.
one absolutely ever wants to see that. And there's other examples outside of
Sure.
that aspect of the sport and the entertainment. They're just tragic situations and people aware of it. And Brian's taken a real practical approach to address a really important issue related to bone strength. So, any more insight you want to share on that work and its relevance?
Yes. So, Dr. Brian Nielsen, one of our top equine researchers, I'm going to say in the world because I believe that. And I think that's true. So, he had done the study for bone density, and while it may feel like it is just revolved around the racing, and it's not. One of the things I love about any research that Brian does, while it may seem to focus in one industry, it goes broad spectrum. So let's just talk about that for a second. So one of the problems too that we have in the horse industry is everything is more visible, which is good and bad. We got social media. So when something happens, man, it is all over. Are there going to be a certain number of accidents? There are. I mean, we've had two horses here in 30 years break their legs out in our pasture.
Mhm.
Okay, one of them got kicked, another one fell and broke its shoulder. So I mean, there's a certain percentage of those that are unavoidable. But what if we could do something to minimize that as much as possible? So, Brian's test on bone density and exercise, while it certainly applies tremendously to the racing industry, where does it apply to somebody like me? Okay, we've got 70 stalls. I have my barns leased out now, but for 30 years, I ran this. So I've got older lesson horses, I've got young horses, we've got show horses. How does that apply to me? Okay, well, what am I supposed to do? One of the issues that has changed significantly in the horse industry over the past 30 or 40 years is, horses used to be housed outside. Well, the majority of horses now are housed in stalls. Okay, with controlled exercise environments, where before, they're running out in the field and doing whatever the horses do. Well, then how do we how do we help them to maintain their strength, to maintain their muscle, their bone density, all of that? So Brian's work then helps us with, okay, so what is going to cause damage to joints? And one of the things, one of his research projects, it may have been the same one, was he discovered that when we do circular exercise with horses, that tends to put more stress on the joints and causes some alignment issues. Okay, well, I would say the majority of people do something called lunging horses, which where you have them going in a circle. Some of them go very fast. Young horses, especially, are we damaging them? Is there something else we could do? Do we need to eliminate lunging? Well, sometimes that's not possible. Well, if we can't eliminate it, what should we do differently? So Brian's research helps us to be mindful about what we should or shouldn't be doing with our horses. When are we damaging them? When can we minimize any damage that we have? And that all came out of that study. And so it applies to my older horses. It applies to my young horses. My older horses that are arthritic, it's like, let's not let them get galloping on a tight circle. We're probably doing some damage. So it went across the board. And one of the things I love about Brian's research is he has what I would refer to as range. He can talk to, national gathering of veterinarians and talk the talk. He can also go to a 4-H meeting and make us understand. So that's a real feather in his cap that he's able to do that.
Yeah, great example again. Very practical research that can be directly applied across multiple aspects of the industry and, help preserve or strengthen bone health, which, that's what everyone who has horses, that's what it's all about. No one wants
Yep.
to see a horse get hurt. And, so broad application and really broad impact. And one of many success stories related to the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture and why we're so proud of that program. One of the things that's really made that program successful is the partnerships. And, you mentioned your facility and the breadth of your interaction with the MSU. You've opened your own facility to MSU researchers. We not only want to do research just to do the research, what's more important is the impact and the broad impact on real life, multiple aspects of the industry, and not just on our facility at MSU. So, what does it mean as an industry professional to see research happening in real world settings rather than just a single location on campus?
Oh my gosh. Well, if we want to be able to use that information in our real world setting, why would we not want to invite the researchers in? We get a lot of insight about that. And so, Brian or any other researcher always has carte blanche to do any research that I can help them with. Because, that's just going to help not only me, but everybody else. One of the things that besides just, this type of research, when I bought the farm, MSU Vet School was looking for some farms to do some facility research on, and Dr. Martin Nook and at the time Joe Rook, Leesa, could we use your farm? I said yes. So they came out. It was fabulous, George. They came out and they tested all of our hay. I mean, like they did probably 50 core samples on my hay. I know what's in my hay. I don't really know how to do that. If I'm just a farm owner, I don't even know how to do that. I had all these core samples on my hay. They tested all my grain. They tested the bedding. They went through. They did fecal samples. None of that cost me any information. Then they helped me with this big giant report. What good feedback! And then they brought the students out. Okay, now that would have made some people nervous. It made me great because they saw different things. And like one of them said, well, your ventilation could be better. And I'm like, yes. Well, you could raise the barn roof up. This is a student, 4 or 5 inches for ventilation. And I'm like, this is a 300-foot barn. No, we probably can't do that. oh, what could we do? We could add some fans. We might be able to ceiling fans. But it was very, very, very helpful. And then much like, one of the things that drives our industry is lesson programs. And lesson programs generally have older, very solid horses. Okay, but a big challenge with them is keeping them sound and comfortable. Their heads are good, their bodies not so much. So I know Brian is probably looking at doing some more supplement research, which is great because if there's supplements out there or different feeds that will help keep those horses up and operational, they are the ambassadors of our industry. They're also the gateway for people to get used to large animals and be introduced to ag. But there's so much information out there through a lot of it's just strong marketing and it doesn't really work. So having the facts, yes, this supplement or this feed will give you a 20% increase in circulation, or this one is very expensive, but we have no scientific research that it works. And the cost of those, like for me, okay, we've got 70 horses here, probably 15 of them are 20 years or older. This is another thing that's happened that, when I was a kid, 17, 18-year-old horse was old. Most of our lesson horses now get well into their late 20s. My best lesson horse, 38, and she was still going when I had her put down because she was having some lameness issues. So, how do we maintain those horses longer in life and useful?
Mhm.
And honestly, I know some people would argue this, but your best horses love their jobs. They do, and they want to do that work. So let's help them to do it as effectively as they can, as pain-free as we can, so that they have quality of life. So I'm looking forward to some of that upcoming research as well, and would encourage anytime anybody ask it to allow you to come or allow them to come in, please do, please do.
Fantastic. Shifting back to the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture again for a little bit to dive a little bit deeper. You were someone who was a key partner in that whole effort in the very early days of its origination and execution, and really establishing it as a proven, impactful program. And you had the ability to interact not only with leadership at Michigan State University, but leadership from all of our animal agriculture industries. What stood out to you about the alliance between MSU, the state of Michigan? I want to make sure I call out and mention the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, who are also key partners
Yes.
in this effort, and the industry partners. What really stood out, and what's your fondest memories, and what do you think were the keys that really made that overall effort so successful?
Well, I was very impressed and kind of overwhelmed with the knowledge that was in that room. You had key people from each of the various industries in there, very, very knowledgeable. I personally learned a ton. One of the things that really stood out was the passion and integrity of each and every person on that committee. That nobody really had a personal agenda. Everyone, and I'm not sure how all those folks were selected, but boy, did you guys get the right people, because it was all a collaborative effort within the industries. There was, this is going to surprise people, but there was never like fighting or bickering, or we'd sometimes have a difference of opinion, but then we'd come out more educated.
Mhm.
I thought it was probably okay, George, this is exciting, the most functional committee I have ever been involved in. And that's
Mhm.
saying a lot because I've been at a lot of committees.
Mhm.
But so just the quality of people, the knowledge, you had the head of many of those industries there, and we could have a discussion. And I'm not familiar with, well, I have a degree in animal science, but I'm not that familiar with cattle or sheep or swine, and to hear their perspective and what
Mhm.
their concerns were. And then, much to my surprise, because, no pun intended, but oftentimes the horse industry is the black sheep, kind of because we've kind of made ourselves that way. I hate to say it, but we're so passionate about our horses that passion can sometimes bleed over into other people and not hit them quite in the right spot. But that they were very receptive, and we looked at, the different programs that because you polled everybody, got everybody's opinion. So I know we were looking at funding for the farrier school. It's like,
Mhm.
are the cattle people going to go for? But then when they understand that that's our need, yes, okay, that is our need. Likewise, one of the things that came up was getting trained workers in the food industry. Well, I'm not in the food industry, but we all eat. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the labor thing. I'm like, oh, this is a big issue. So the collaboration and just the knowledge and I was very amazed, and I'm sure that you still have the committee. The other thing that happened, the Department of Ag, when they were rewriting some of the I don't remember if it was legislature or whatever they were doing, but Dr. Averill, he pulled people from those committees, and
Mhm.
man, kudos, because he said, "What are the concerns of each of you?" And so I remember a few things came up that had to do with the horse, the way that it was written. You couldn't you couldn't abide by it, and to be heard that these are the concerns of our horse industry. So, and then and how that interacts with the other industries. So to have those opportunities to be heard was just fantastic. And then to get the collaboration and the opinions of other folks. And I was shocked at how many times we all agreed, even though we all come from different industries. I don't know how you felt about that, but that's how I felt about it.
Yeah, Lisa, I mean, you nailed it. My roots, my beginning in ag bioresearch and my start in research administration is really linked to that program. So I have so many fond memories, and I think you describe so well what makes that program special and what makes Michigan agriculture special is the partnerships, the strength of the partnerships. And folks on our listening audience who hear me speak regularly may say, well, here he goes again, but I'm going to say it again. What we have in Michigan is very, very special. The ability of our entire agriculture community to rally together and support efforts that are good for agriculture as a whole, whether they directly benefit one industry, whether they directly benefit plants versus animals, it doesn't matter. That doesn't happen in other states, and it's really part of what makes Michigan agriculture special. And that spirit of collaboration and partnership between our Michigan animal agriculture industries, the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, and MSU really is special. And that's foundational success of the whole program. It's all focused on impact. And what's having an impact is important, and everyone supports that, whether it's a horse project or a dairy project or a swine project or a sheep project or a poultry project, it doesn't matter. It's focused on impact, and everybody comes together and recognizes that, and that's how our funding decisions are made. And that's why this program has had such a really transformational impact on our animal agriculture industries in the state. And I couldn't be more proud of and thankful to the folks involved for that spirit of cooperation. It really does make Michigan stand out. So, pivoting to the future, and as we kind of wrap up our conversation, tell us a little bit about what you would like to see addressed in the future from MSU from a research perspective for your industry. And secondly, talk about what it would mean to our horse industry and our horse owners in the state if we didn't have the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture there to help fund these important projects.
Oh boy. Okay. So, I kind of touched on it earlier, but anything that helps us manage our horses, especially their safety and welfare. And that was something also that came across in on the Animal Ag Alliance Committee. The producers, they do care about their animals. They do care about welfare. Social media has made us think otherwise, and that is not what came across at all. So really having the welfare. Now, the horses, because we're more interactive with them. Anything that helps them have a longer, happier, more successful life is great. So I'd mentioned, the research on supplements would be great. The exercise stuff is wonderful because when Dr. Nielsen does this, it's like, how does this apply to the horses in my barn? I don't have race horses running at Santa Anita here. So how does this apply? Those two things I think are absolutely critical. Any research, and this is where I would really call on the equestrian community because I'm just one small piece of this. If you have areas of research you would like to see, reach out to your representative and let them know because we want to encompass all of the areas, and there may be some areas that we haven't thought of or that are up and coming. So without, gosh, without this funding and the collaboration here, boy, we are left to be victimized, and I that's a strong word, but victimized by just strong marketing, hearsay, and very poor science. And the horse people have been victimized by that for decades. And so we really, really need this solid, non-biased research. And without you guys, I don't know where that's going to come from. So I shudder to think about that not being there. That leaves us very vulnerable.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And what a fantastic conversation. I know I really enjoyed it. And I think our listening audience will also enjoy it and appreciate your perspective. And we need to do this kind of thing more often. And so that's why AgBioResearch is committed to our current communications campaign to help better tell the story of the impact of the work our scientists do through the lens of the people who are directly impacted. So I want to thank you for your time participating in this effort, all of your support for Michigan State University, AgBioResearch Extension, College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture. Partners like you that really are foundational to the support we receive and the great work we're able to do on your benefit now and into the future.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, George.